Hi there. So we're at the XRP Ripple Wyckoff session. Let's quickly look at what the recent price surge is telling us and what kind of trends it has broken through. So here, this very long candle bar. We talked about this before, right? Remember this blue box and this purple line. We mentioned about the price is going to have a breakout somewhere between like in the early half of July. So now it has broken outside of this triangle. What's significant is it immediately also broke above the close of the buying climax at $2.60, and at the high point it also went above the highest point of the buying climax as well. That's around $2.90. What it hasn't been able to do yet is to reach a price level above the upthrust. So the upthrust closed at a little bit higher than $3. Now the wick hasn't gone as high as that level yet, because obviously some people would front run like by setting their profit taking mark at around $2.98 or 99 cents. That's highly possible. So that's why once the price reached that level, it got some selling pressure and it returns to where we're now at around $2.77 or 78 cents. So given this scenario, if we were to put in a Wyckoff tag, a potential development would be the upthrust after distribution. So there were some consolidation that happened during this period between mid-March to July, early July or late June. Now the upthrust after distribution seems to be in the cooking. Not saying that it must happen, because if you look at this, currently the peak is still lower than the previous peaks over here, the upthrust and the LPSY. So this 2.8 price level has to be broken in order for that to confirm that the price is really trying to reach for an upthrust of the distribution. Of course, this can go higher than the upthrust or just at the similar level at $3. It all depends on what's going on in the market, why all the sudden surge, right? So here, this is the backdrop. This downward trend has been broken. So why did I say Ripple is going to hit maybe $3.50 or even $4? Where's that coming from, right? So if this is really a new upward trend being formed, let's take a look. If I draw a box, again this time upwards, and bracketing even the wicks of the candles, so I'm talking about this wick as well as these wicks. So this seems to be a little bit steep given the current wick is only at that level, and now it looks more or less correct. So yeah, there we go. So if, let's say, the price rises by 50% from the level of the buying climax, that's around $3.90. However, if we are calculating from the upthrust, a 50% would be at around $4.50. So that's a possible range if you are looking at Fibonacci, like those fractions or percentages. About the timeline, if it's really following this, if this is really the new trend, this yellow box, 3.9 would be around November time, late November, and 4.5 would be February next year, just wild guessing. So of course we may need to adjust later on, because this, if I line it up in a way that you see all these candles over here, right? Align it more to that point, to those points, and this point over here, because the current candle is still being developed, so it can go higher as well. This wick, the tip of the wick, may not be the end. It can still go higher in the remaining 2 days and 8 hours. So if the slope is really like steeper, then let me enlarge it so you know what I'm referring to. So this point over here, this wick, there's a wick here, right? And then these guys, and also these over here. So if the slope is this, 3.9 is about September, mid-September time. You see at the bottom, the mid-late September is 3.9. 4.5 would be November. So as early as in like late 3Q and early 4Q, if this is really an uptrend seeking to the upwards of the distribution and reaches a point 50% higher than the upwards, then late third quarter and early fourth quarter, I would say early, mid fourth quarter, maybe where we would see the upwards of the distribution that's landing over there. So let's put it at this point at the third week of September and see for how long this can stay over there. Obviously, if the price falls through this yellow box, then we have to look at it again, then, because that scenario may not hold anymore. So let's go to the daily charts. The daily charts, interestingly, the price tried to go through this yellow box. Remember, this upward boundary is pretty much set by what happened in the past back in February as well as December last year. So this moment in time, the selling force we're seeing and where the price is currently is staying at is basically constrained by these points. Not saying that it can't go higher, because we've got these peaks over here, just that selling pressure is pretty high within this range between $2.75 and $3, all because of these high points earlier in the cycle. So this time we have this sign of strength, right? And basically maybe a new distribution has already happened and we have just seen the buying climax, possibly. So natural development after buying climax, not saying we won't see a green candle. There may still be a chance we see the second green candle, much like what happened in mid-May, right? But what after would be the automatic rally. So when that happens, when that retracement happens, what's next would be, or can be, an upthrust because of what's happening in the weekly chart. So if this trend, this upward trend in the yellow box is really happening, so you see the big trend, the price is going up, right? So here it's supposed to be going up as well. So even if there's like retracement for a few days, if the weekly trend continues to go up, it will eventually, the price will eventually go past this buying climax and form an upthrust. And if what, or the scenario I said really happens, like by September, somewhere between September to November, we are going to see this upthrust of the distribution. At that moment in time, let's say it has the retracement and then an upthrust around August, let's put, just guessing, and then it retreats again for the lap towards upthrust of the distribution. That goes all the way into September, like we talked about. It's a long journey from now till then, but a positive one if it really happens. Otherwise, like what we have seen here, if the market loses momentum immediately after the buying climax, then it will come down to somewhere around $2 for another accumulation before it comes back to test again. Though the tricky part is, remember this yellow box, right? The price should not fall below the bottom edge of this box for too long. If it really comes back down to the $2 range, that's going to signify one thing, and that is this upward trend, we can scrap it basically. So if it comes down and go below it, close below it, because the bottom edge would then become the resistance line. It doesn't mean it can't test a new high again, but it will be further down the line. So you can see, right, if it really comes down and edges along the bottom edge to climb, 350 would be somewhere in mid-December instead of September time. And $4, if it continue to go, it will be February next year. So almost like shifting by a quarter, even if that's going to happen. So that's where Ripple is now, and don't be surprised if there's still some sort of price surge tomorrow or the day after. Even more normal if there's retracement, because we're seeing an automatic reaction from the buying climax or these price surges. That's going to trigger some kind of selling immediately after. So totally normal. That's where Ripple